Now, our guest speaker is someone who is no stranger to us. Tarick Walton is a proud graduate and alumnus of St. John's Primary School. He is most grateful for those 6 memorable years with the robust foundation that each honored teacher has laid. Mr. Walton has grown and developed professionally throughout the fields of engineering, infrastructure development, and business management. Today, 17 years later, Mr. Walton is a proud graduate of MIT and Georgetown University. He's an educated problem solver with the aspiration of using science, arts, and entrepreneurship to make an economic and social impact on youths across Jamaica, the US, and the world. Mr. Walton has created a free online mentorship program for youths interested in science and arts. He has also written an inspiring and autobiographical novel for youths entitled Life Lessons from MIT, Tennis and the Umpire Above, 10 Secrets from a Poor Jamaican Boy Who Never Gave Up on the Court. He is happy to be here with his college sweetheart and wife, Chelsea. She has been a deep anchor of love, support, and guidance throughout their union. His mother, Carol Walton, is also one of our honored legends who have uniquely contributed to Tarick's development. Mr. Walton often states with conviction that the sacrifices each teacher made in the past have and will continue to directly influence the lives of students across Jamaica and the entire globe. He reinforces this assertion by expressing that if he had not attended St. John's Primary School, his life would ultimately not be the same. Mr. Walton lives by the personal motto which states, "Do not let the world dampen your dreams." With all dreams being explored, ladies and gentlemen, honored beings, put your hands together and help me welcome our guest speaker for this evening, Mr. Tarick Walton.
Principals, teachers, living legends, students, friends, and other members of the St. John's Primary School family, good afternoon. I want to say thanks to the Vice Principal, Mrs. Slater, for her kind words of introduction. It's indeed a proud honor to stand here today as a class student and alumnus of this great institution, St. John's Primary School. I'm sincerely privileged to be a part of this celebration simply because of the impact that each living legend has made in the hearts of students. Thus, when I first heard about this opportunity, it became an absolute priority to adjust my schedule so that I could be here and personally say thanks. With previous work commitments of traveling and partnering with teams across Europe and Asia, I believe it was written in the stars to be here as this period coincides with my wedding anniversary. Thus my wife Chelsea and I are extremely happy to celebrate a reunion here at home while paying homage to the renowned legacy of our honored legends. Mindful of this, I wish to express great thanks to the principal, Ms. Clark, faculty member, Ms. Karen Williams, teachers, and other organizers for inviting me to participate in this festivity of excellence, sacrifice, and longevity. Like a stranded voyager, crashing along the gushing waves of life's challenges, I am eternally grateful to have encountered a precious rock. This precious rock, which rises from the surrounding stormy waters like a majestic mountain peak, has served as a pivotal cornerstone in Jamaica's great heritage. And nested in the heart of Spanish Town, surrounded by the turbulence of crime and dilapidated communities, this precious rock has consistently guided young voyagers from all corners of Jamaica to a path which leads to a rare and breathtaking lagoon whose tranquil waters have been transmogrified from the crashing waves of the surrounding seas to a deep blue paradise filled with purpose, direction, and most importantly, with hope. This precious rock, which I am eternally grateful for, is St. John's Primary School. The legendary teachers seated here today have diligently served as steadfast pillars who supported and enabled this great institution to transform young lives in miraculous ways. With this said, I am humbled and honored to express gratitude on behalf of the hundreds and thousands of students who have benefited from the classrooms of St. John's. Each classroom has not only been a place which exposed young minds to the wonders of science, arts, and imagination, but each classroom has also been a nurturing and sacred abode in which eternal morals and life principles were echoed from generation to generation. Every distinguished teacher that I've been blessed to have throughout grades 1 through 6 has provided me the most enlightening and memorable lessons throughout my adolescent development. And with the foundation that I've received at St. John's, I've been fortunate to advance my education at some of the world's top institutions in the United States and right here in Jamaica. However, none of these institutions will ever compare or match St. John's Primary in my heart. This fact is because of you, our living legends. Each teacher at St. John's has provided me a solid foundation, which will continue to pay dividends throughout my career and life. For example, when I sat during some of the most difficult mathematical courses at MIT, it was the memory of my multiplication tables that Mrs. Hines and Mrs. Fullerton drilled within me at the young age of 8, which propelled my understanding and performance. When I encountered great challenges in my career, challenges which threatened to dampen my dreams, it was the inspiring memory of the book, Think Big, that the late Mrs. Graham shared with my class, which motivated me to overcome each adversity and stay true to my dreams. When I had to wake up early each morning at 4:30 a.m. to commute to high school in Kingston for over 7 years, it was the memorable poem repeated by Mrs. Burton in morning devotions, which taught me to never grumble nor complain. With the discipline that she and other teachers taught me, I can still recite those precious words from the famous poet which says, "The heights by great men reach and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. These are just a few examples of the important foundation that each legend has made in the hearts of students. And it is because of this, your extraordinary and distinguished service, that I wish to title my speech as the 3 reasons I say thanks. The 3 reasons I say thanks. To accurately express my gratitude to every teacher seated here, I think it's appropriate to share 3 memorable quotes that genuinely and symbolically portrays the impact that each legend has made in the hearts of students of St. John's. Using this approach, the first reason for which I say thanks is best described by the writer William Arthur Ward, who penned the following words: "The mediocre teacher tells. The good teacher explains. The superior teacher demonstrates. But the great teacher inspires." I've chosen to share this quote because each legend seated here today has made a great and inspiring impact on numerous students throughout the span of their careers. And from an early age, I too was greatly inspired by 2 of our honored legends seated here today. Although the classroom often serves as a guiding source of inspiration for future scientists, nurses, engineers, doctors, lawyers, and other professions which impact the world, Mrs. Gibson and Mrs. Cunningham are exceptional legends who inspired me to engage in the artistic expressions which will continue to serve as pivotal tools which shapes and molds society. One important engagement that I will always remember as an inspiring moment at St. John's was my involvement at the JCDC Arts Festival, which some of my fellow alumni have shared throughout the day. The JCDC Festival, which stands for the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, is a national arts competition where students from all corners of the island perform and compete using different forms of cultural art. And during that period in my life, Mrs. Cunningham not only trained me in the art of passionate public speaking, but her unforgettable inspiration planted the seeds of leadership and altruistic service within me at a very young age. When I reminisce of the early days when I entered my first arts competition, there was one inspiring moment that cemented my focus in life. And that moment occurred when I was faced with one important decision. This critical decision revolved around the type of artwork that I would choose to perform at this competition. And although I had the option of choosing from thousands of speeches, literatures, poems, and songs, Mrs. Cunningham inspired me to take on the challenge of learning the iconic oratory address delivered by the late Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington, D.C., titled, "I Have a Dream." This was a heart-rending speech, a heart-rending monologue with over 1,600 words that I was challenged to recite at the young age of 8. I can still remember the first time I read and studied those precious words. During those unforgettable days in practice and rehearsal, Mrs. Cunningham's guidance and inspiration opened my eyes to the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. At a young age, I became impressed by this great preacher and civil rights leader who used oration, poetry, and social activism to influence generations and nations. And after studying Dr. King's historic words at an early age, I became further inspired to engage in charitable public service that would make a positive social difference in my hometown and nation. As I stand here today, 17 years later, that seed of inspiration that Mrs. Cunningham planted within me has grown and blossomed into a deeply rooted tree, which continues to inspire and motivate me to dedicate my life to the path of public service in Jamaica. With the inspiration and cultural education that I've received from St. John's Primary, coupled with the advanced training that I've been fortunate to learn at tertiary institutions and global corporations like Emerson, I'm motivated each day to create sustainable infrastructure throughout Jamaica, which will provide accessible economic opportunities for youths across this blessed island, which will ultimately improve the welfare and social development of this great nation. As I stand here today, I'm grateful for our honored legends. And although this specific example of inspiration seems insignificant, like a single droplet of water, your collective inspiration has blessed the hearts of thousands of students like showers from the heavens. And it is for this reason that I say thank you for your lifelong inspiration. The second reason for which I say thanks is conveyed by another memorable poem which I hold dearest to my heart. This special quote expresses and exemplifies the goal and mentality of every honored legend, including my greatest teacher, my mother, Mrs. Walton. This quote was first scribed by an educational activist and best-selling author named Dorothy Canfield Fisher, whose trailblazing legacy has not only impacted the field of education, but has also defined the very words written in stone at the State House capital of Vermont in the United States of America. Her words are paraphrased as follows: a mother and teacher is not just a person that someone can lean on, but instead someone who makes leaning unnecessary. But instead, someone who makes leaning unnecessary. I stand here today proud and justified in using this quote, as it accurately describes and demonstrates the strength, determination, and backbone that each legend, including my mom, imparted on every student of St. John's. As a son and student, I can personally attest to the beaming qualities of a legendary teacher who has made the most profound impact on my life. Not only did my mom teach me for 2 years in grades 5 and grade 6, but she has also been a lifelong example of hard work, discipline, and inspiration, which has made me the man I am today. Although I can share numerous memories and examples of lessons that I learned from her, some of which were learned the very hard way. There's one lesson which she taught me that has stuck with me throughout my entire life. As a young, ambitious teacher who traveled from the rural breadbasket of Jamaica to this nation's first capital, Spanish Town, in pursuit of creating a fruitful life for herself and for her family, my mother and teacher taught me the true meaning of the word and verb to dream. What it means to truly dream. This lesson is one that was echoed by every honored legend seated here today. You know, every day we hear the word dream being used so casually, without one understanding the true gravity and meaning of this word. However, I'm indebted to each legend seated here as you've taught me what it means to truly dream. To properly explain this important lesson, I wish to express the word dream as you've taught me through an acronym. Each letter of the word has a special meaning. The first letter of the word and dream, the word and acronym dream rather, stands for a common descriptive title which every effective dreamer must possess. This title is being a dedicated doer. A dedicated doer. By example, my mother and other legends seated here has taught students that in order to accomplish anything, you must first dedicate yourself 100% towards achieving your dreams. And then you must also make constructive and perpetual strides to see it through each day as a committed doer. The second letter, R, stands for being a reader. Throughout my 6 years at St. John's, every teacher has echoed the importance to read and learn about the failures and successes of others. Others who have blazed the trail and paved the way for us as we learn and progress throughout life. The third letter in the acronym is E, and it builds on the previous letter, which conveys that one needs to read and acquire a solid education. For me, my education revolved around engineering and entrepreneurship. However, every legend has effectively inspired students to attain the best education in whatever fields they wish to pursue. Whether it was plumbing, medicine, arts, or storytelling, like the unforgettable stories, the Anansi stories that we learned, which beautifully adds color to Jamaica's rich culture. Each legend brought out the best in students by continuously echoing the need for an education. The fourth letter in the acronym is A, and it stands for ambition. Each legend continuously motivated me and other alumni to aspire greatly and pursue lofty ambitions with excellence. The fifth and final letter of the acronym DREAM is one that every legend here has and continues to demonstrate throughout their lives. The letter M stands for being a mentor. Being a mentor is particularly important to me as the mission of mentorship is one of the main pillars on which my present business venture is built on. The importance of mentorship is championed directly by teachers as it resonates throughout their lives and daily actions. Each teacher seated here today has demonstrated that in order to truly attain your dreams, one must unselfishly guide and mentor future generations, which will ultimately create lasting legends with a cemented legacy. With this said, each legend has followed their own individual dreams, and with hearts of gold, they've passed the baton along to future generations by being lifelong mentors. Every teacher seated here today has been a guide that students could lean on. And although we as students and graduates are thankful for this, we're most grateful for the lessons of strength and independence that you've taught us. Each lesson has helped us to avoid leaning on others, which has allowed us to stand strong on our own 2 feet and passionately pursue our own dreams. And it is for this that I say thank you. As I proceed to the third reason for which I say thanks, I wish to share my third and final quote, which was historically written from an island located thousands of miles east of the Caribbean. This special quote is poetically described by the late Japanese writer and inventor Kobo Abe-san. His words have not only impacted his nation throughout World War II, but like precious gems, their value continues to resonate and impact the globe in which we live. This quote that I wish to share reads as follows. Year after year, students tumble along like waters of a river. They flow away, and only the teacher is left behind. Left behind like a rock, buried deep at the bottom of the flowing current. Left behind like a rock, buried deep at the flowing current. This timeless excerpt is such a beautiful and vivid expression that forces us to think and wonder. How should we interpret this statement? Students tumble along like waters of a river. They flow away, and only the teacher is left behind. Left behind like a rock, buried deep at the flowing current. The rational and wise interpretation is that each teacher is unrecognized and left behind like an ancient rock amidst the flow of students. But in contrast, I choose to take a deeper viewpoint and analyze the true message shadowing these words. I strongly believe that there is a hidden message that has a valuable and profound meaning embedded. From this deeper perspective, I believe the writer is trying to convey that although there are teachers who may get lost in the ever-constant flow of students, there are legendary teachers who serve their community and nation by being a steady rock that influences, guides, and transforms the flow of students sailing along the rivers and seas of life. To further explain this phenomenon, I ask the question, what would the famous Niagara Falls be without the ancient and eternal rocks that propel water at an average flow rate of over 600,000 gallons per second? An astronomical flow rate which could fill an Olympic-sized pool in 1 second. Or rather, what would our own cultural and iconic Duns River Falls be without the legendary rocks which add genuine value to this nation's tourism industry? Legendary rocks whose beauty become the hallmarks of pictures and postcards which inspire thousands of global citizens to visit our island each year. Global visitors who choose to travel great distances just so that they may experience the mystique and vibrancy of Jamaican culture. The answer to each question is simple. We as students would be nothing without you. Each honored legend has been that God-sent rock, buried deep in our hearts, whose guidance and lessons have shaped the path that students have chosen as we navigate the rivers and seas of life. Like stranded voyagers, crashing along the gushing waves of life's challenges, we're eternally grateful to each of you for being our God-sent precious rock. As I conclude my keynote address for this special gala as a representative of the St. John's student alumni, I'm grateful to each living legend who has made an indelible impact on the lives and hearts and minds of students across this great nation. Your devotion, hard work, and commitment have transformed lives, which has ultimately elevated you to the status of real-life heroes and heroines, and most of all, legends in our hearts. It is for this simple reason that I say thanks. Thank you for being the great teacher who inspires, so that we can stand proud as Jamaican citizens, young and old, with professions impacting the soul and culture of this nation. Thank you for teaching us how to dream in the true meaning of the word, so that we can stand strong on our own 2 feet without the need to lean on others. And most importantly, thank you for being that faithful rock. That faithful rock that sits steadfast in the river. That precious rock which guides the path of young voyagers as we flow and navigate the rivers and seas of life. Thank you. With the inspiration of music that I received 17 years ago from Mrs. Gibson, I wish to close with a personal song that I wrote entitled, Like a River. Analogous to the unique pathways and vast changes that every river endures, the words of this song were written as an expression of gratitude to every inspired legend who has shaped and guided my path along the rivers and seas of life. But as you get on that diet, you run my life, and I know. Oh yes, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like a river, I was brave and strong, wondering if I could have less. But as you cross my path, sweet peace and last, and now I know, like a river, I was underground, like a tunnel light, I say no sound. In the dark, you were kind to me, made the blind to see, and now I know, like a river on the ground. I say wonders and valleys, so yes, through despair, you rescued me, showed me oceans and seas, and now I know. Like a river, I'm sure stream. Like a river, I was incomplete. Though I thought I was on my own, you gave me home, and now I know. I am home, I am home, I am
Len, what was that in Nigeria?